Little background on me. I'm going to go really deep into creative finance tomorrow, which is usually what everyone wants me to talk about. I will touch on it a little bit here, ask questions about it here for sure. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about partnership. I'm going to talk about the business that we built, how we built it, things that go wrong in partnerships, things that have gone right in partnerships, how it works with your wife being a partner, how it works. A lot of you know my business partner, Cody Davis. My business partner, Cale Pommel, is here. I partner with him on a ton of projects. It looks like we're going under contract, if we're not already, today on like 180 more rentals in Texas. So we do a lot of business there. I'm going to talk about what works, what doesn't, and go from there. So for those who don't know me, I did the traditional Dave Ramsey approach, save up to buy rental properties, didn't really take on much debt, did a 9-to-5 for 8 years, which got me exactly 2 duplexes and the house that I currently live in. It's pretty cool. 2 duplexes cash flowed enough to cover my mortgage, my real estate, paid for my real estate. I felt pretty good about that until I looked back and said, I have hated my job for 8 years. I don't want to save another 8 years to get another 4 units. Or maybe take a little extra cash flow, maybe scale to 10. I was realizing that I was going to retire potentially early and probably pretty wealthy, but nowhere in the timeline that I wanted to. Around this time, we had COVID hit. And when that happened, my outside sales job became an inside sales job, which is definitely not for me. I had time to reflect on my goals, and I realized, okay, I would like to aim a lot higher. I want to do something bigger, and I want to really just focus up, build a different business. I ended up leaving my job, going to a brokerage that was doing multifamily transactions with no experience whatsoever, left the CoStar Group. I went, okay, I'm going to go ahead and push really, really hard. I'm going to make this work. Left my job. Also, my lovely wife, who's going to come up here and join me in a second, she was a kindergarten teacher during COVID. So she started teaching kindergartners over Zoom, which if any of you have young kids, I don't yet, but if any of you guys have young kids, kindergartners are not known to learn particularly well over the internet. In addition, we're in the Seattle area, which has political ideologies that may not be fantastic, that she was being required to teach kindergartners that we weren't a fan of. And so my 10-year, 20-year goals of, hey, let's save, let's buy real estate, became, okay, I just left my job and you're quitting at the end of this year and we have no plan. So all we can do is succeed in buying real estate. Around this time, I just finished converting my second duplex. We did bought it 101% financed with hard money, did the renovations, had just refied it. So I'm like, okay, I've done a renovation project. I met Cody Davis, who had already bought a bunch of seller financed real estate, had never had a job. I went, okay, what if I do what that kid's doing, who's never had any income and bought 30 rentals? I took him out to coffee and asked him one question. I'm 29. Can you help me get to 30 rentals by 30? And he was like, unfortunately, no. Because I want to buy a 38-plex, I really need a partner to help me operate it, and I'll put you at 42, which is not 30. We partnered together. This deal was insane. So they had a chicken infestation. There was literally chickens everywhere. 2 different units were just housing chickens inside their unit, so they'd bring them all in at night and just release them in the courtyard in the afternoon, and they'd breed, and there'd be more chickens. And so there's chickens everywhere. They had cockroach problems in a few of the units. It had a homeless camp on the back. It had been on market at the same price for 13 years. $2 million, 38 units. And everyone passed on this deal. And we looked at it, and I was like, well, if someone could stabilize this property, 38 units in Washington for $2 million is an insanely low price. It just doesn't bring in any money. I think it came out to like a negative 1.5 cap rate because it loses money operating. People have argued with me on this, by the way. You can't have a negative cap rate. If your operating cost, just flat operating, is lower than the income, it is a negative cap. We went in on this deal and said, well, no bank's ever going to finance this, so conventional off the table. Every investor in that county who's big enough to want to take on, it's not a huge project as far as unit count, but it's big. There's not a lot of players for 38 units. All the established players look at that and go, I already have enough money, I have enough rentals, that's a hard project. Why the heck would I do that? Everyone else, mom and pop people, it's like, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the 4-plex. You really needed 2 really young investors who are like, I see the upside, I see the project, we want the project, and we know it's going to be hard. We bought that deal, $2 million, 85% seller financed. We found 3 investors. None of them I knew before we started the deal. We went under contract, no idea where the money was coming from. Called people in the office, like, do you have anyone who bought a fourplex, who wants to buy bigger but doesn't know how, who might have money? Brokers in my office were like, yeah, here's a few people. We called 4 people. Out of 4 people, 3 of them gave $100,000. We closed the deal. Super long story short, there was so much drama getting druggies out of tenants and getting collections up. Middle of COVID, the state paid for 3 months behind, 3 months ahead of pretty much every back due non-paying tenant. So we got a huge lump of cash to start the project. Started renovating units, redid siding, got rid of the chickens, got rid of the tenants who were bringing the chickens. The neighbors helped us with the homeless camp. They started developing the back lot behind us. 11 months in, we got an appraisal from the bank for $4.1 million. We brought the actual collections from $5,000 to $23,000 in the first year, $29,000 this year. Next year will probably be at around $33,000. We cash out refied over $1 million from that property after we paid off the investors. One of them we actually just converted to a note. They actually seller financed their equity to us. A little extra creative on the creative. But we put together this deal where we own this solely without partners. We cashed out a liquid $1 million from that deal, which helped us build the business. Since then, picked up, I think we're at 205-ish rental properties. We did this in 4 years. I bought a hotel that was stupid. If you're a multifamily person, don't be a hospitality person. They're completely different brain and science. And your employees who are really good at multifamily, definitely not good at hospitality. No similarities in skills. They sound like they would be. It's like, oh, they built perfect buildings with people in them. No, it's not. Stick with what you were good at. We learned that. Keep your mistakes to less than $4.5 million. We won on terms there. Fantastic deal mathematically with cash flow. We overpaid for the property, but we got 4.5% interest on an 8-year seller finance. Problem with overpaying is if you decide you don't want to be in hospitality, you also can't sell it because I can't just sell it with the same seller financing. So that was a little bit of a bummer to discover that if you do overpay, you do in fact have to be successful because you can't get rid of it until you get the value up. We're doing well on it, cash flows, but it's a huge distraction. What we've built as a portfolio, though, is we are really good at value-add multifamily. We know we're good at it. We can do it consistently. We are good at figuring out terms. I've done option contracts, seller financing. I've seller financed my equity to other owners. We've done millions and millions of dollars of renovation in Grant County, Washington. I've expanded in Texas with my good friend Caleb over here. We have, of course, it's 69 units in Texas. But we have exactly 69 units in Texas right now, about to add another 170 something to that portfolio. And a majority, not all, but a majority has been either seller financing or at least partially seller financed. Prospecting method that we've come up with. And this is one of my favorite things about this event, by the way. I don't do anything that Jesse and Patrick do. All the creative finance deals that Mike Zuber's done, structured completely different than mine. Everyone here, Dion, Mike, everyone here has a completely different method of buying real estate. All of them work. I just spent my career cold calling. I don't want to cold call. I'm not organized enough to figure out the whole mailer thing and trial and error. I get, it's not my thing. Do people rock at it? Absolutely. I found that I really enjoy playing pickleball and being around, just being social with other people. I talk about real estate all the time. I've only connected with owners. And when I need a new connection, I look in the area I want to buy and I go, who owns these buildings? Say 20 to 100 unit buildings. There's not usually that many people in a given market. You call me and just go, hey, you have all these buildings I don't have. I have no idea how to buy them, but I love what you've built. Can I take you out to coffee and just hear your story of how you built a business? I've never asked anyone to sell a property, ever. I don't know how that conversation is supposed to go. I make about 10 calls a week. Of that, maybe 2 owners actually bother to pick up the phone. Of those, one person always meets with me. So in a year, I'll have 52 owner meetings with an owner I haven't had coffee with before. We'll talk about real estate. I like coffee. I like spending an hour with a new person. That prospecting method has yielded just about everything. Outside of a little bit of the Mike Newton strategy of talk about the story on YouTube. Sometimes people have just reached out and they've asked me for the coffee meeting. But I built an entire business only on interviewing people on how they built their business, which allowed us to move a lot, I think, forward a lot faster and make less mistakes. Because not that I didn't make expensive mistakes, but I learned from people who made even bigger mistakes that I was able to avoid just by having a meeting them. Instead of, can I buy your property? What did you learn trying to build the business that you built? And what were the roadblocks? That's been the most valuable thing for me. Okay, I'm going to transition to partnerships here. This is the main point here. To build this, I started with no money in my bank account, as did my partner who never even had a job. So we started zero. If you're going to buy a bunch of rentals without any money, seller financing, we've only got 100% seller finance one time. You're generally going to need more people. This can be private capital, which we use a lot of. This could be hard money, which we also use a lot of. It could be equity partners. Partnerships are very hard. I won't do a show of hands for who's had a divorce. We've already had multiple of these referenced. Marriages don't always work. Business partnerships, I would say, is a lower commitment than a marriage. They fail even more often. Partnerships are ludicrously hard. I've built my entire business on trying to avoid variables. All my debt is fixed rate, no exceptions, ever. Everything must cash flow day one, no exceptions, ever. Unless we have a ton of cash flow doing a renovation project. But you have to do that without sacrificing all of your existing business cash flow. You must have positive. When you get to people, people are the most variable thing possible. If you're looking at, we talked about interest rates going up. They went from like 3% to 8%, more or less. Partners are a million times more variable than that. I've had partnerships that are fantastic. I've tripled their money. They called me and said, I want more money. I'm suing you. I'm like, for what? Well, the property management agreement we signed, I didn't realize that you own the company. I'm like, I countersigned it. It says owner, Christian. The conversation was, I'm going to manage this in my company with my employees. You're like, I thought you meant like the people that you know. This is unethical. I want to be reimbursed all PM fees. And I want you to personally pay me rent for every vacancy we had, because it was your company's job to have these leased immediately the day they were vacant. Even if I didn't contribute to renovate them, and even if they had fleas and rats, you should have had those full, so you owe me rent. That is a legitimate. I'm going into arbitration for this at the end of the month. We are undefeated in court, and we spend a lot of time there. And we spend a lot of time there because partners and people usually suck. We've had fantastic partnerships, and I've built a multi-million-dollar. We make a good deal of money through partnerships. I also spend a ton of my liquidity on dissolving partnerships. I've bought a majority of my partners out of their companies. I have a habit of being the one who outworks people, as does my wife Danny, as does Caleb. All of us have been through this. Caleb's 21, by the way. He's already had to buy partners out of companies. It's really hard to have an equal partnership. And in fact, I'd say it's impossible. You're never exactly equal. This is true for marriage. This is true for any partnership. It is impossible for two people to go exactly the same direction with the exact same intensity. There's going to be different skills at different times where different people will shine. There should be exits from all these partnerships. I'll share one more horror story that ended really well with Creative Finance. We partnered with someone. I really needed $500,000 because I bought a resort that I should have bought. And we needed to do some renovations that I didn't budget correctly for. We needed the money. Someone said, I want to buy into one of your projects. I had full equity of this building. It was the 38-plex, so we already bought it out. He's like, I would like to buy in and partner with you. I was like, okay, I'll get you some due diligence stocks. His exact words. Oh, that's okay. I believe in the value. I want to buy it for $550 for half of this. Everything I touch turns to gold. I'm like, you don't want to review anything. Rents, nothing. So does it cash flow? I'm like, it's about to. We have 6 more renovations. He's like, oh, awesome. I can help with the renovations. I can keep costs down. I got a call from another owner. He's like, if you do a deal with him, you're going to lose some of my respect because you're doing a deal with the devil. This guy sucks, and you're going to regret it. And I was like, well, options. Need money. Your respect. I'm going to have to go with the money. I did call him, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I need this money. This is the obvious answer, and I know I'm going to regret it, but hopefully not $550,000 to regret. We partnered with him. He was terrible. He jacked up the rates of renovation 3x. And he was like, why aren't we cash flowing on anything? I'm like, because you tripled the reno cost. Nothing's changed. We haven't renovated the units because we still don't have the money to do so. We're gonna have to wait for the cash flow. At the same time, the other building I bought with this individual, under construction insurance, Every single pipe burst in the building, 19 of 23 units flooded. Under construction insurance. Now, this is a good, the more you know thing. Turns out there is no construction insurance that covers burst frozen pipes if your roof is over 20 years old. I've talked to 4 different insurance companies. The roof was only 21 years old, unfortunately. So, total loss of building. We bought it for $1 million, 23 unit, great price. Seller financed, really low monthly payments. I was doing 3 other reno projects. I didn't have the liquidity to cover that and get us back on track, even though it's still a phenomenal deal, even without insurance covering it. The other partner, the guy I shouldn't have partnered with, he's like, I have the money to do this, but he's also a total shark. So he's like, I want you to give me both buildings. I'll give you a $200,000 net. I lose a lot of equity there, but I turn my only 2 cash negative buildings, the one that's under construction and the one that's a puddle. I turn those into $200,000 on a 2-year note right now. I'm like, that is actually better with the pieces that I have. So I don't trust him. We write an option agreement for the 38 that says, I get all of my equity back as collateral because I don't trust you. And you know I don't like you. We're way past this. We don't like each other. We know we don't like each other. You know I don't trust you. If you assign all of my equity back to me, I will write an option agreement to you to purchase this property at cost. And you write this $200,000 note here. That way there's some balance and I have some control. He lost his option within a week. He didn't pay the option fee and also didn't sign the PSA or the management agreement for the management option because he wanted to use an unlicensed individual to manage a building that I had 100% equity of, which is illegal. All he needed to do was find a professional property manager. I'm not signing that. We're just going to go back to being partners. I'm like, you already signed the equity. I can't. No. We solved that. But the amount of stress and headache, I have a partner I don't like. They don't do the things they say. They renegotiate things. Now we have a problem on a building that's partnered with someone who's hard to be partnered with. It sucks. That's why I'm telling these stories. It's like partnerships. I've had great ones, but the bad ones, that one guy I'm going to arbitration with, he was one of my groomsmen. I've known him for 25 years. We've been best friends forever. You put money into a friendship, different relationship. Rule number 1, partnerships, don't introduce money if you're not willing to change the relationship. I've seen partnerships where people are friends before, they partner together, and their relationship blossoms. But it definitely changed. It turned into something else. I've seen more of them where the relationship falls apart or someone gets weird about money. Either way, if you have a relationship you don't want to change, don't introduce money into it. Caleb, we have worked together for quite a long time. We started out, Caleb was actually one of my original mentees. I try not to partner with him, but Caleb and I became really, really, really close friends. Money has always been a piece of our relationship. We've always been buying real estate together. We've always been talking finance. There was no material change to our friendship because money was always a piece of it. Childhood friends, family members, do not partner with them. I promise you it will not work the way that you think it will. It never does. I've never heard anyone who's like, I've done this. This is great. I always hear either we successfully bought each other out or we all sued each other and we all lost. That's generally what the story is. The one thing that I have done right, I know there's people in the room who've had both sides of this. Mike, you talk a lot about it. Olivia, you guys have had a very successful business relationship and marriage, which is really hard to do. That's awesome that you guys have had that. I have had the benefit of having that with my wife, Danny. So I'm going to call her up here to join me, and we're going to talk a little bit about marriage, at least what I think we've done right in my mighty 5 years of investing.
And when you introduced finance to it, did it change the relationship?
Yes, fortunately for us, we started out, we both started with no money. We had gone through our careers together. When you're married, newsflash, money is involved. I don't know the statistic, but I know it's a majority of the divorce things happen over money. Over any other thing, it's disagreements that start with money. I read that statistic, don't know where I'm quoting it from. It is a thing. If you have money in a relationship, it can get a little scary. For us, I actually started with no money and a really low-paying job. She was out earning me when we got married and had saved up enough to help us buy our first condo that I did a live and flip in. So I did a whole bunch of reno in this thing. We rented to a roommate. We lived in a 2-bed, 2-bath condo when we first got married. We had, from the get-go, We've always done real estate together. I had built a higher income job, not huge, but I mean, I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars on the sales side. I was doing very well in sales. We've had both sides where she's been the breadwinner, I've been the breadwinner. We've always had real estate as a piece of the relationship. That helps. I think the big difference, and I'll let you weigh in here.
Okay.
I think the big difference between our relationship and other partnerships that I've seen is we communicate on everything. We work together right now successfully in the companies, which I have 4 main companies. She's involved on all of it all the time and could not run without her. What she does is amazing, but we talk all the time. When we went to the 38, I was like, this building, oh, sorry, Kurt. The building was fucked. The building was absolutely, that building was really trash. And when I came to her, I was like, this building is a huge project. We absolutely do not have the experience for this. We're going to raise money we haven't done before. And I definitely think it's going to work. What was your response to that?
Sounds good.
Yep. And we did it. It worked. If it did, I spotted one of the investors in it because they didn't realize that they actually had to be liquid when we closed. So I got a HELOC on my house to do this. So I was like, the only thing we're risking right now is our house. To which she's like, okay, well, I would rather move. What you responded to me, this is how I felt too. It's like, don't invest with things that you're not willing to lose. It's like, is the potential for financial freedom, and do we believe in this deal enough? Or if we lost the house, is this going to affect us? And she's like, well, we started with nothing not that long ago. We bought a condo, we bought a house. We already know how to do those 2 things. If we lost the house, we go back, a couple steps and we buy another house and get another job. It's not that bad.
I also told them we were going to move in with my parents, so that was a big motivator as well.
Yeah, that's also, yes. Because I really wanted to live with my mother-in-law. I was like, yeah, we're definitely not going to fail. Definitely not going to fail. I think the biggest thing in partnerships, and this is where I've had strengths and weaknesses, is communication. The only partnerships that I've had struggles in, minus the one guy who I knew I was doing a deal with the devil, like partner with him. There's places where I can look back and go, I could have communicated more. I could have sent more emails. I could have had more phone calls. Whenever you have very clear communication, and there's all these touch points where everyone's on the same page, I find the partnership goes a lot smoother. And it's a lot more comfortable when something goes wrong to have that phone call like, hey, you know where we're at with this property. Something just happened. Everything's flooded. We're calling insurance right now, but it may be like the one thing that insurance isn't going to cover. They're like, well, why not? What's wrong? It's like, there are no insurances will cover this because we're doing construction financing, turning a hotel to multifamily. It's just one of those things. It's the thing that can happen. For all the other partners involved in that deal, it's me, it's Danny. It's my first business partner ever, Cody Davis. We're all together. It's not that stressful. We're like, okay, this is the worst thing that could happen. It has happened. These are the pieces now. We're going to adjust. You want to find people like that if you're going to partner with other humans. You could do the Dion method and just not partner with anyone ever. I'd imagine you have a lot less stress than I do.
A lot less days in court.
Point out, though, undefeated. It helps to be right, and it helps to be right on paper. If you're going to do partnerships, I'll let you talk a little bit about our fun time in court. We do a lot of eviction court because we do a lot of value add property. So I'll buy a lot of mismanaged properties. And Danny will run point on a lot of the management with my wonderful staff, which is comprised of Corey, who is fantastic. She is a beast. When we go into any agreement, we don't do any boilerplate anything. We probably overpaid, but we spend a lot with very good lawyers on every single document and review everything all the time. We are swapping partners on a deal with Caleb in Texas. Caleb texted me, he's like, what the heck is this bill? We've spent like $10,000 on going over, changing the OA and buying out the partners. I'm like, this gets messed up. A particularly wealthy client who can afford to win in court is going to afford to win in court. We have to get these correct, and it's really expensive. That is the one thing with partners where at least when we have conflicts, I've read every single word on every single document. I do not just sign for stuff because we're the creative finance guys. We can figure out anything with a contract. We spend time on the legal, a lot of time on the legal, so that if something comes up and when something comes up in a partnership, we spent the time on what are the actual cures for this. What can people do and not do? We spend a lot of time just practicing in court, going through evictions. I get sworn in all the time just to thrash the other lawyer. And I don't use good language in court, so they tend to not call me now. But
You're also very logical, and Christian knows laws. And so that's the thing too, where like people don't mess with Christian. Comes on and they're like, oh, that's off now.
But when we're coordinating things like you're involved in our negotiations with our one weird partner, but with just general, like when you go to court, when the state hates landlords and you're generally in Washington State and in Oregon and California, basically where majority of us are from, except for you, Texan. This whole coast, you're basically guilty until proven innocent for just about anything landlord. Danny, what does it legitimately look like if we're trying to solve a dispute, even with a tenant? Let's not even go to partners. Let's talk about like the people in our portfolio. What does our process look like for getting rid of someone?
So like we're evicting somebody,
Yeah, we're evicting someone.
the whole thing.
Just like
Okay.
bullet point rapid fire. What do you actually have
It's
to
not
do?
like a strong suit. Well, there's a lot of notices you have to post, and the lawyers, we always pay them to post those notices because if they mess it up, that's their problem, not my problem. That's the property management company.
Yes.
But yeah, so we notify the lawyers, they give them the tenant ledger and we say this tenant's not paid, here's their lease, and then they start the whole process. And then they just ask us questions throughout, have us notarize things, and then they tell us when to show up in court. And then it's really the Cliff Note version, which is we let them do most of it.
Our last one, it came up, and this is what happens in any court proceeding. The other lawyer doesn't really give you any information that they're supposed to submit beforehand.
Yep.
I'm actually now suing the other lawyer because she keeps doing this.
You are
She's ambulance chasing. She sits in the courtroom
in the
or in the waiting room, and whenever they have a recess, she just comes in. Who here is here for an eviction? I'll represent you for free. Her only job is to extend the eviction because she'll represent them pro bono. But as soon as they come back into court, she's listed as their state-appointed lawyer, and she now gets paid every time she comes back. That's ambulance chasing. That's cheating. You can't do that. Smart. She's also smart. She's also really good at not winning. She's really good at extending everything. So she brought up a new law, or a law that was new to me in Washington. If you guys don't know this, if you have a Fannie Freddie backed mortgage, the notice you post is 30 days, not 14. If you post the 30-day on someone who doesn't have the Fannie Freddie mortgage, it's not the correct 14-day notice. So you can't just post a non-pay notice. You have to know the loan product they have because, of course, the owner's debt has a massive detrimental effect on the tenant. If anyone could come up with a reason why they would have passed that law, usually you can kind of like back into like a way that it could have made sense to someone. That one's wild to me. But they'll come into court and be like, can you prove that you followed the Washington CARES Act and posted the correct notice for the type of debt product they have? That's the type of stuff that you have to be prepared for in court. And for me, I could say yes. Tying this back to partnerships, if you're going to have partnerships, you need to have paperwork to when someone throws something at that level of you. Like, if you don't know this arbitrary law that even the judge has never heard of, that makes no sense. I'm going to get you on this. You have to be prepared for all of them. If you don't want that headache, find a way to buy real estate without partners. They are really hard. What works is communication, finding alignment, and there's one trick that I've found. I want your feedback on this too. We didn't discuss this before. Yeah. When you're doing a partnership, there should be a defined goal. Every partnership should be built to end. And we go, hey, we are pushing to X. For Cody and I, we want to build a 100-unit portfolio over the next 2 years. So that Cody's equity is, I want equity a total of 50 units, because we calculated with the average cash flow per deal that we get, that's financial freedom for Cody, and he can retire his mom, and 50 units was financial freedom for me, and I can retire my wife from teaching. That was the goal. When we hit 100 units, we found that we love buying real estate together, and I hate managing properties with him. We talk about this all the time. This is public. I'm not just talking about Cody's back. Cody's amazing at finding deals. He hates managing them. I traded him a sixplex to get the property management company. And now the partnership's cured. And there's we have no more distance. And we went, okay, what's our next goal? Now, but we didn't renegotiate anything until then. There was some discomfort. And I'm like, I feel like we're doing more work. And then my wife left work, and now it's 2 Osgoods working full-time and 1 Cody working half-time. and he has half the equity. And we're like, wait a second, this isn't going to be sustainable. But we started the company together, and we're like, let's just not change anything. Let's not even bring it up until we hit our goal. We hit our goal, and then we reassess. If you set these benchmarks for partnerships, you have a natural out, and you have really comfortable conversations. That conversation with Cody went great. I was like, would you be receptive to me buying you out? He's like, well, what would that look like? I'm like, well, we just bought a bunch of buildings, so neither of us have any cash. If I traded you a building, would that move you forward? And he's like, I hate managing, let's do it. Like, solved the entire relationship because we had a set period where we said we hit all of our goals. If we end right here, we're happy. Do we want to continue on? And then we set new goals. We bought the next 100 units. We bought the resort we shouldn't have bought. And then we're like, okay, how do we move our pieces from here? So I was like, do you just want the equity in the resort and all the debt? I was like, no, I don't. So we're still running that again. When you're putting these together, I have found that's the best thing you can do outside of great communication. Clear set goals that everyone is pushing 100% on. Clear designation of everyone's roles in the LLC operating agreement. This person is expected to do X and Y. This person's expected to do X and Y. If there's a failure of these things and all other partners vote on this, you can expel this person from the LLC with an appraisal. They can contest that appraisal and get a second appraisal. That's fine. It's a 60-day window to do that. But how do you adequately protect yourself where you can get rid of partners, you can end the partnership? The ones that I see really go awry, and this happens all the time, two friends go into business together, slap together a crappy OA, and they go like, this is
operating
work.
agreement.
Was that?
The operating agreement.
The operating agreement,
Oh,
yes. They slap together this lazy operating agreement. And then God forbid the business actually works. And now there's money on the table, and one partner is like, this is my life. I love this company. I'm going to grow this company. The other one's like, dude, I'm getting paid. This is sweet. I've seen that happen in a lot of partnerships. He's had a partnership like that. They happen. When you have these clear jumping off points and clear designation of roles, it really helps. In our company,
Which one?
in our companies, you hopped on,
Yeah.
and there wasn't a ton of designation of roles. You just started doing stuff,
Yeah.
and it became a role. How has your role been defined in our partnership? Or at least, how do you feel that your role is defined in our partnership?
Am I allowed to throw it under the bus?
Please.
Okay.
It's better content.
Christian walls. The small little micro walls. Like the little tasks that are really important over time. And so that's
I'm talking about my
come in.
micro balls.
So over time, things like $100 bills are 60 plus days to due, past due, or things like that. So like that's where I come in and like grab those little pieces and fix those up and clean those up. And then when those systems are in place, then I come back to Christian and go, what else can I help with? How can I help offload things from you? Because you're overloaded or your brain is being used up in spaces that are not the best for your brain. So, and then that helps him find his lane, me find my lane, and then for us to go, okay, we need to find these other people for these certain lanes so we all can make this thing smooth.
My logic there, by the way, if it's $100 bill, their penalty is we're going to charge you 9% interest. I'm like, it's $9 to not deal with this right now.
Versus I'm like, it's $9.
Like I got to pay off a few $1 million here. Let's spend that on marketing. Which is why you have a partner who's better at details.
Yes.
You should also pay your bills. It's good practice. How often do you and I talk about goals? Realistically.
I think we talked about that monthly. We go out, we like to go on walks. Like we really sit down and talk about our goals, our finances, where all that stuff is like monthly. Every like week we talk about our goals. Usually on Monday we just take a walk and walk around and talk and then also every day too. It's just like they're not goals, it's sort of like what are our tasks for the day? How are you doing this? Have you tackled this one yet? Are you taking on that kind of thing? But if we don't have those conversations,
Yeah.
I feel like that's when we suffer the most. And that's where I'm like, time out, I need to talk with you because we're hurting.
Yep. No, I agree. I can't think of the last day that we didn't talk about operations of one of the businesses, at least during the day.
Yeah.
There's always something that we're working on. And because it's a partnership where there's daily communication and we're in it together, this is our portfolio. This isn't Christian's creative finance project. This isn't the Christian and Cody mega partnership. It's not the Caleb and Christian show. It's we are a unit. We operate as a unit. That is how we are as husband and wife. We are always one entity.
That's her goal.
And there are pieces of some of these partnerships, there have been times where I'm like, I am too busy on whatever project, but I am a legitimate partner in this deal. And Danny has come in and called the partners and said, I am taking on say we're all a third. Danny's like, I'm taking on the Osgood third right now. All the value that I'm providing, this is on our behalf. And it moves us forward. We're doing a mobile home park right now, and we're doing a hotel conversion right now. I've been pretty heavily focused on the hotel conversion, and I've helped with the park, but it's mostly Danny and our other partner, Eric, who are just running that one. It is fantastic to have a team member who goes, okay, you are lacking here. I'm going to step in, I'm going to support, and I'm going to be okay supporting you, which is an amazing thing that Danny does. She's like, I don't need credit. I need us to move forward. If that means supporting you, she just does it. And I'm not always fantastic at appreciating you, so thank you very much.
I don't like compliments, so I'm like,
Yeah, she also doesn't like it. But that's the type of team that you want to build. I run one of the companies I just straight up run with Caleb, and we're starting a property management company in Texas because I apparently like paying. Property management is the low margin business I want to be in.
yeah, you do like dating.
In that business, the three of us work really, really well together, and we communicate. Caleb, realistically, how many times do you think you call me in a day?
Some days we spend quite a few hours on the phone, to be honest. Probably at least 3 calls back and bare minimums.
I think if you go through my phone history, it's going to be 5+ calls a day, where we're talking pretty much every day, talking business. Those are partnerships worth having and investing in and flourishing. The ones that where like you talk to people once a month, they're the ones that keep having problems. People lose interest, or they give their money. They're like, oh yeah, I'm loving this. You multiplied my money, but then we didn't talk for a month, and I found some other investor, and I just gave them all my money, and now I'm not broke. I'm just like,
It was like I partnered with somebody and we own a duplex. The duplex doing fine. Then that's I feel like where you have those multiple conversations. But
yeah,
that's really it.
But if you're doing like a big project, or even like we have a 17-unit portfolio where we just have nonstop friction with the other party. They're like, how are things going? They're massively forward. Why are they not done? Because it's real estate. There's not. This isn't a like we buy it today, it's fixed tomorrow. Yeah, that would be nice, but that's just not how the game works. Do we have any questions? Because I know time is important.
How did you go have coffee with the owner in Texas on the deal you're doing right now?
Oh, so coffee meetings in Texas. I like to stack multiple together if I'm going to fly. Now it does help that I am moving to Texas. I will do that in August. August, yes. That was the dream. Retire wife, build a house in Texas. House is like 80-ish% built.
Too fast.
Yeah, it's going too fast. That's happening right now. Up to that point, I need to have enough meetings booked to just justify the flight. It wasn't that long ago. Someone was like, "Hey, I have 2,000 units free and clear. I would love to come down and get dinner with you." Flew to Dallas. Total waste of time. The guy his buildings didn't have roofs on them for the most part. He just let him rot. He just had this gross portfolio of worthless junk. And I didn't get any takeaways. But 2,000 units, free and clear. I was like, this is probably worth my time. I made the flight down. I've also flown down. Caleb and I did a deal in Stephenville, Texas. Owner was like, hey, I'd like to meet you guys. Would like to show you around the town. That is absolutely worth it for me. We have an actual transaction on the table. Owner had brought it up over the phone. We're like, okay, let's check it out. And so booked the flight, got down there, loved the building, loved the city. We've continued to do more deals in that town for that reason. So for me, it's just generally speaking, if I can see that there is a reason that there could be value in this meeting, I value meetings over anything else. Relationships have taught me how to play the game. They've taught me the auction agreements I've used, the seller financing agreements I've used, maintenance, legal, everything we've built has been taking someone who's been playing the game for 40 years, and they dropped 40 years of knowledge on me so I can apply it in 4. And that's been amazing. So to me, that is the highest value task I could possibly do, is be around people who have done what I already want. So that's how I've stacked it. If it's an owner who's like, I have like 5 duplexes, I'm like, cool, I'll meet you as soon as I have 3 more meetings down there, and then I'll do a day in Texas with the lawyer I want to hang out with, one of the owners I've transacted with, someone else I really admire, and then some of the other mom and pop owners who I also want to meet, but might not justify a plane ticket to get down there. That's how I've personally stacked it.
One last question for Danny. How do you manage your work-wife
Bounce.
DoorDash.
And TaskRabbit.
And Rabbit. Not kidding. I think it's just knowing like when I'm tapped out and it's like, okay, well, that's why computers I need help with these things or like, just juggling it and that kind of stuff. Christian also works until like 9 o'clock at night and I usually stop at 6 because I want to do those portions of like I love being a wife and I love, caring for my household and that kind of stuff. So then I want to do those things. But if we're both just slammed, it's like, yeah, we're gonna hire people to help us out. But
Outsourcing.
yes, that's
Outsourcing what?
so DoorDash for food. If there's like little Christian does not have a honey to-do list. His honey to-do list is
I've made it.
real estate. That's what TaskRabbit's for. Also, we call it the Osgood way, which is usually not the right way, but with TaskRabbit kind of S thing. My dad and I will have a smile when we do things sometimes. I love you, but
They're done.
are not. And someone who works with contractors all day, I'm like, oh Lord. So I think it did.
If anyone's ever taken the multifamily strategy course, that's one of our rules of real estate. Done is better than perfect.
That seems to be a common theme.
So, but yeah, so we do outsource things. Did that answer your question? Unless, okay.
If anyone has questions throughout this event, by the way, on like, how are you guys renovating units? What are your renovation standards? She is the one. She knows the contractors. She coordinates all of them. What flooring goes in, what windows go in, everything. Can we stack one more question and then we'll move on?
When y'all adding the functional flipping into?
In a few weeks.
We're in filming and editing right now, but we are adding another 100 videos to the course without changing the price. We're just adding a whole other course into the course on renovations and flipping. But if you guys have questions about that stuff, she is a wizard. I would argue of the last $4 million of stuff, at least 3 of it has been from her coordinated contractors and actually getting the project done.
So then once all those things are done. Yes.
Yeah, but if you have questions about renovations or all that, her, if you want to talk about creative finance or deal structure, me, otherwise we're surround. Thank you guys so much for giving me a little extra time. And Kurt, I'll turn it back to you.
I heard was Christian was the expert on getting his spouse to be okay with buying real estate.